people got to dictate and really have our opinions heard and help, you know, put it in a certain vein. And those days are over once it became consolidated. So from your standpoint,
it changed because a lot of it got eaten up by the big corporations. You know, at the time when you know, KSO and KMEL were around, those. I remember when I first got to KMEL in '92. The owner of the company was still in the corner office, so it was different to be able to know who your boss was, you know. And you had somebody like a Keith Naphtali, who was the program director, who hired an Alex Mejia, a David D, a Sway, a Theo Mizuhara, because he knew that they had their ear to the street. They were definitely kids from the Bay Area. He put them on the radio and said, "What's hot? What do you see in moving?" And they respected your opinion. It wasn't like, "Oh, we did this research of 40 people, and they said these 4 songs are the hottest shit ever." Well, those 4 people are from Stockton. They're not from San Francisco, Daly City, Richmond. They can't tell you what we're listening to. They can't tell you what we're vibing off of. You're not really asking me anymore. Now I'm just the voice that's introducing these songs that you put on a playlist for me. And you know, at the end of the day, it is a business, so I understand what they're doing, but you've taken it away from it being community-based, which is why we love
but radio for the longest time had been the primary way in which poor communities, black and brown, communicated with one another. To show you the importance of radio, there's a speech by Dr. Martin Luther King given August 11th, 1967. And he talks very specifically about the role of radio and the radio DJs. He says point blank, there is no civil rights movement had it not been for these black radio DJs. And he talks about the roles that they all played in really communicating and bringing forth, you know, the movement. He also talks about the fact that those black radio DJs were threatening. So he says that the riots that started in cities, they blamed it on people like Magnificent Montague. If you recall, it was in 2006, there was going to be a big immigration bill that was going to cut back on those who were here undocumented. And Latinos on radio stepped up the way they did in the 60s, and you saw millions of people out on the streets. I was in LA when there was a million folks downtown, and almost overnight, you know, the corporation smashed on them and said those Latino radio DJs were threatening, you know, and made them pull back and shut it down and just play the music and all that. But with that being said, you kind of been in the middle of that thin line of trying to say a little something. You've been in the morning where you've had, you know, the opportunity to speak, but at the same time, there's a penalty if you start to get too far out there. So how have you been able to navigate that, also knowing this long history of what radio DJs have done?
Well, you know, you just gotta kind of play the line. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a job, and you gotta learn how to navigate through the politics that are politics. They want you to talk less, they want you to play more music, they want you to talk less about what's really happening out there. But you know, you invite Big Rich to talk about his program. You bring Gil Watson to talk about his program. You bring in Rudy from
United Players
to come in and, you know, he's talking about his buyback. So you subliminally throw these folks that are doing positive moves in there in between the music. You know, I'm not interrupting the music. I'm not stopping the music. I'm not doing 30-minute interviews. But I'm talking to Del Ross over instrumental beat in the mix, and we're talking for a minute and a half, and we get our point across a little bit here, a little bit there. And as long as you navigate in and out of what your parameters are, I think you can kind of do it at the end of the day. You know, I love what I do regardless. I may not like all the music I play, but at the end of the day, my job is to entertain, and I hopefully am entertaining, and I'm throwing a little education in between that doesn't sound like I'm preaching, doesn't sound...
The room.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good to have education, but it's not education, it's knowledge.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And knowledge that we can apply. And that can
And the
come,
way you apply it.
so
right?
that can come if I sit in front of Tajay and he tells me how to navigate the labels,
Yeah.
or I sit in front of this sister and she tells me how to deal with, you know, the college thing or whatever. So
Yeah.
that's knowledge. But I would say that if hip-hop, to a large degree, prides itself on being tight with its hustle game. A lot of people say, man, we've been able to outmaneuver the system. We're at a point now where the oppression is right in front of us. What is the skill set that we can now bring to outmaneuver that? What's the creativity that we bring to it? What's the energy that we bring into it? Part of it may mean that we have to link up and know that, we know our Filipino brothers and sisters are getting down this way. Maybe we slide with them and then they slide with us. It might be unity.
Totally.
But I'm saying that we haven't put that on the table and that energy.
Yeah, being more conscious. Like when I was 10 years old in 1991 and we're listening to everything was politically and conscious driven in hip hop at that time. From the Nefertiti charms down to the whole movement, the X-Clan, all of these rappers where I was a little young, mushy head little kid that was soaking all of this in at that time. That's what we were thrown, it was thrown at us, you know what I mean? And we were taught that, so I almost be saying like, sometimes I'll be like, my generation, like 25 to 30, is almost like the last generation of our parents that really lived through the civil rights movements, right? Because now when your parents is born in the 70s and in the 80s when crack epidemic came and stuff, it kind of just diluted and messed up a lot of stuff that was going on. We lost that sense of growing up in a household when your parents and stuff was in tune. I have over 50 students in my program called Project Level, right? And they don't know who Ja Rule is. So F Rakim, they don't know who Ja Rule is, Like they don't know somebody that was just relevant 6-7 years ago. It's like you're right. But you know what I'm saying? So we grew up knowing about Aretha Franklin and even I'm young, but I'm just saying like we grew up knowing about everybody. Curtis Mayfield, Sam Cooke, that was my dad's favorite. And so that sense of culture, family structure, Christmas isn't the same no more. Thanksgiving, families, come on man, I tell the truth. 5 people,
But we get that, right?
Yeah.
But if you go to a Rolling Stone concert, right?
Yeah.
Father, son, grandfather will be there, right?
There you go. Yeah.
Stevie Wonder last night. Father, son, and everybody there, right?
Yeah.
So the question becomes, what's to create? Hip hop is supposed to be about creativity.
Gotcha.
Right? So if we're talking about, if you can bust these moves and bust these lyrics and do this incredible, murals on a wall.
Yeah.
What's the creative impetus that people bring to the table now? As hip hoppers, not as activists, not as teachers, but as people rooted in this culture to change the world around us. And I'll just close by saying this. Barack Obama gets elected because hip hop shows up in the form of a hope poster, right? So that Shepard Fairey poster comes out of our culture, right?
Yeah.
And he's able to put that and make it an iconic sign, right? It comes from, being at the rap summit where Killer Mike tells everybody to put on their Sunday best, and they all go out there and do all these different things to make sure that the first black president gets into the White House. Now the question becomes, once you get to that goal, what's the next step that we take to make sure that we're all able to benefit? And I would say, I don't know if it's an overnight 30-second answer, but I'm saying that creativity has to be back on the table.
We need a hip hop think tank. The same way the conservatives got a think tank. I'll say this. There's a conservative pundit by the name of I think her name is Michelle Malkin. And I got on her line on Twitter. This is me personally talking to her on Twitter, talking about, she said she's proud to be Auntie Tom. I was like, are you really? I had over 25 other people bombing on me on Twitter. I was like, they network is so integrated. It's like we gotta step our game up on a lot of things. I was like, where all these other people come from? I was talking to one person on Twitter. I didn't add all these other people. But whatever network they got me. And I was calling everything from the N-word to whatever.
Hip hop has done that. When Hammer first started, he had a team of people that was bombarding folks to get on the radio. We've done this before. That's all I'm saying. Any type of hustle, online hustling, we've done that, right? If it's people being able to create an illusion, because Michelle Malkin is not that popular. She just made it seem like that. But she had 25 people hit you up at once, made it seem like the whole world was there. But I would say you probably have more people than she ever did, right? But she just used her people more efficiently. So the question still comes down to everybody in this room, and if anybody wants to jump in on it, I would ask the question, how do we bring back hip-hop creativity, ingenuity, that spirit, that energy to take it to another level.
Serious
Go
question.
ahead.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So that's
I just wanted to say,
Go get the mic.
how's everybody doing? We're in the dark almost. I was looking at it. I think one of the main things, I speak from experience from producing shows and dealing with independent artists. I booked over 3,000 artists in the last 4 years. I produce a rap show, so I deal with ego. I deal with people who don't really appreciate opportunities and things like that. So I think one of the biggest problems that we need to overcome with hip hop in general is like ego, number one. Because I think ego is killing hip hop. And I think that like the social media and people not getting at people direct is killing hip hop. And I think that selfishness is killing hip hop. Because all of us can be very successful together as opposed to just running in one direction or running in different directions and not achieving anything that we should be achieving collectively. And I feel that's the same problem with our people and people in general. So we could change that, I think, if we stop being so selfish, stop having so much ego, and take the time to understand one another. Because the worst atrocities in mankind happen when two people don't take the time to understand each other. And hip hop is being destroyed with that type of attitude. You know what I mean? And I just want to say that briefly. And I think if we change that, like San Francisco hip hop, Bay Area hip hop, back in the day, these brothers were successful. And today, because I bought their music, I bought Seven Souls of Bishop 50 times. I bought Too Short, Don't Fight the Villain 50 times. I bought UEMC records to tape when I was a young brother. I bought Conscious Daughters when I was a young brother. I remember buying Ice Cube. I bought the record. We need to get back into that kind of spirit and support one another and not be so selfish. And I think if we do that, we can save hip hop.
First off, I just want to give props to the whole panel, Davey D, for taking hip hop to where it is right now. Everybody had a hand in that, and I give y'all much love for y'all part of doing that. Thank you very much. We live in a capitalistic society, and we all need to understand what capitalism is based on. And it's all about business, it's all about the dollar. We need to understand how to run business. And when hip hop was first started, it was really about the love, it still is. But now it's become a billion-dollar business, a multi-billion-dollar business. And if you're doing hip hop, you need to understand business first. Because music is only 10% of the game, if that. So we need to understand what kind of system we live and how to navigate through it as business people. Before you guys showed up, we spoke about this. I talked about this a little bit, but hip hop needs to build upon business, and we need to own our masters and our tapes and our publishing and all the business aspects of it. That being one part. The second part of the game is, before hip hop was even playing on the radio, let me backtrack that. Before certain music was played on the radio, i.e. different alternative hip hop, there were groups that came out that made a difference without getting any airplay. And that's where we are right now, because the top 40, whatever kind of music is getting played now, which is not hip hop, they need to call it a different genre. Represent real rap music, real hip hop music. We need to start saying the things that are going on in these streets right now in our lyrics, and representing that, and then force the corporate to play that music by what our public, what our society is wanting to hear. Because right now we don't want to hear Young Thug. We don't want to hear some of these artists that are just out here talking about Molly, talking about different stuff that is irrelevant to our lives, we need to start saying what's relevant in our streets, in our community, like we were talking about earlier in the discussion.
I think something that we may want to consider. First, what I heard you say about business. Yes, in a capitalistic society, we should understand what that's about. But really, the takeaway from it is not to duplicate or poison this type of way of behaving so that we can just be a part of the game, but to change the whole dynamic. And if there's anything that I would take away from it is own your stuff. That's something that I think the day toward the rest of the world, at least in this genre, is own your stuff. I own all my writing. I own my name. I own my website. You all own your stuff. You know, ownership, I think, is key. But not so much that you can get rich, but so you can control. That's wealth. My writings can go to my daughter. You know, if you want to use it, you can use it, Judy, but if Selassie working for NBC, you got to pay me. You know, so when they ran my Tupac interviews, you had to pay me. You had to pay me a lot of money. But if you wanted to run it, you know, we communicate. So I think ownership is key. The other thing that I would say is that we've always lived in a time in this country where buffoonery was big entertainment. From the 1840s all the way up to the 1950s, the biggest entertainment in this country was blackface, right? In the early part of the century, the major labels, many of us that have been on, they put out thousands of records where they talked about cool, that was a popular thing. So there's always been demonizing media that's out there. The question becomes, there was a point in time, for a very long time, where radio and media had to come to each neighborhood and go, what's going on there? Man, okay, y'all wearing orange, then we gonna do orange. What song y'all listen to? We gotta follow your trend. What happened that we now started to follow the other trends? And then the last point is that with hip hop is more than just rap. So as hip hoppers, we should be cognizant that, say, the dance community is known all around the world. They're packed in stadiums, 10, 20,000 people just to see them do their thing. What's the rapper's relationship with the dancers within hip hop, right? Especially when you have so many pioneering dancers coming right here from the Bay Area. I mean, the robotic, the strutting and all that, that wasn't part of the original hip hop in New York, but it is now. What's our relationship with that? When we talk about the graph, you know, from the dreams and all the way up to now, right? The late dream to now. What's our...
The gentleman to do it. Well, I say, like, I'm a rapper. I've been a rapper since '83. You know what I'm saying? So, 31 years rapper. I just finished in Cal architecture. I went to Stanford for undergrad. I work right now with a Chinese billionaire trying to do development. I work with an African dude who's got a mine who's trying to bring precious metals and stuff for Silicon Valley and stuff out here. You know what I'm saying? I'm working with a Pecan sister out in the Philippines on a tilapia farm. You know what I'm saying? And I rap. It comes out your head. Like, look, come on. You do more than just have hip hop skills. You know what I'm saying? Don't be hip hop. You are hip hop.
But that's hip hop.
But you're not gonna. I'm beatboxing or the rapper, all this kind of stuff. That it's all wonderful. Let's do it and be the best at it and figure out ways to incorporate it. But get some skills that people need too. Not that people don't need that. I'm sorry, I don't want to be confusing what I'm saying. Get some real life skills. What does a hip hop grocery store look like? It probably looks just like a regular grocery store, except it's got a better soundtrack, right? But what does a hip hop doctor look like? He's not gonna come in with his scrub sagging and have a gold stethoscope, but he might be like, yo, you know, you heard the new Wu-Tang, you know, like keep you calm and soothing. So to me, it's about getting some skills and then link it up, because we got enough bodies. You know what I'm saying? We almost running over bodies laying on the ground. We got enough bodies. What if all these people had real skills? You know, not that they don't, but use these skills to build instead of in a regular capitalist fashion.
Before we even had the name hip hop, it was called the Jam. And the Jam was a community gathering. It was you came out for the music and you kind of network with your people, right? That's what it was about. It was about community building. And I would say that what you're talking about, that skill set is critical. If I could tell this story about E40, I remember when he was shooting in LA, the Charlie Hustle. I don't know if you were down there when he did that. So, remember, right? So if you remember, at that time, doing videos was like $50,000, $100,000 a pop, right? So when we went down there, it was all kind of catered food and all that. But D-Shot and Muggs was following these camera people all around. And it was like, what kind of lights is those? And what kind of camera is that? What kind of thing is this, man? And you know, people eating and chilling, and they was on. And they wouldn't let up. And then I asked for it. He said that we paying like $75,000 for this damn video. Said we gonna get some lessons out of this. We gonna make sure we understand how to do the video so we don't have to pay that again. That's the hustle I'm talking about. That's the skill set that you're talking about. You know, when you're sitting there going, okay, they're gonna charge us $100,000 to rent a studio, saying that Michael Jackson did it. Fuck it, we put $100,000 in our own flip our own business, and then you gotta pay us another way. That's the constant hustle. And when you own your own, then you can do your own. And so I only use that as one of many examples that we can point to where people have taken things and flipped it another way to the next level. Even Paris. I remember Paris when he did his one of his songs. He sat there and watched these video game people put it on a video game and never talked to him. Waited till the video game blew up and he knocked at the door and said, you know, I own this music. And you got all these video games all over the country. So you either gotta recall it or you gotta bounce me off of fat ass checks. Right? And what did he do? He got fat ass checks because it was gonna cost them more to bring back all the video games. Because they were thinking, dumb black person, rapper, don't have economic skills. And he's like, no, I'm watching you. Oh, it's in New York now, it's in Philly, you know. I do that with my Tupac interviews. I sit there and let you post. As soon as somebody does it that has money, then I own the copyright to this. Pay me today. And that's just plain old hustle 101 that everybody here knows how to do. But we're not applying it above and beyond, you know, just our rapping and dancing and what have you. And I just use those as examples as hopefully inspiration.
David, just add that, and you were saying, you know, you're working with some of the Philippines on the tilapia farms. I think when we talk about hip hop, we talk too much about hip hop. Zulu Nation is not yes, we're together through hip hop, but our whole thing is social movement, uplift the community. It ain't about hip hop. We come together through hip hop, but it's not a hip hop movement, it's a social movement.
That's right.
So I think when we have these conversations, yes, we're hitting the building under the love of hip hop. But let's talk about other things in hip hop, you know? And I think that's one of the things, let's talk other than hip hop. Hip hop and politics, right? You got a forum, let's go, you know, hip hop products together. I'll maybe your doctor, let's talk about how we can like give everyone healthcare now under this one love under hip hop. We got this one company called hip hop. Now let's talk about something else we can do together. So I think that's one thing is expanding the conversation past hip hop. Use hip hop. Like I throw an event every year called Break the Talks next week, and we bring people together through hip hop. But it's not about hip hop. It's about the kids that we serve. Where does the money go? Where does the food go? Where does the packaging can food go? It's not supporting hip hop. It's supporting the community. And I think that's the conversations we need to start having.
Especially with the Zulu Nation, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the biggest games in New York. And by it conglomerating and turning its gang members into break dancers, DJs, and MCs, B-boys, that put the message of peace out there. And that's something we need to do too within the culture of hip hop, is to push the culture of peace. We meet every Tuesday in Fillmore, the new Community Leadership Foundation. We meet at the old Pink Palace. If you're from Frisco, if you're from the Bay Area, you know where the Pink Palace is at. It's one of them old projects. But one day, we took a whole bunch of flyers that simply said, stop the violence, keep the peace. And we posted them everywhere. And we need to do that more consistently because it's a media message. And we can do that as hip hop. You know what I'm saying? You know.
Well, we can start that tomorrow. On a very serious way. Look at how the media has hyped up the 49er Raider fights, right? And I'm not saying it to be funny, but we all friends. I'm cool with Selassie. He'll give me a hard time about my team, but that's my brother, right? I mean, I won't give, but they know we're not fighting stand over no team. Especially when people being gentrified and shot in the streets and all that. But I had to talk to media folks, and I'm going, well, why don't you show that, like a George Galvez from All of Us and None is a diehard 49er, but he's in Oakland working with people. Maybe they're Raider fans, but they keeping the peace in the neighborhood. Show that aspect. Why don't you show that we can have a conversation like this today where everybody is together, right? Versus showing the same old fight footage over and over. But again, if we're not aware that big business is based upon us fighting one another and being a spectacle, then we fall into that. But I mean, just a very simple thing of just being able to see each other as human beings who may have a favorite team, but we ain't gonna be, God. It'd be a cold day in hell before I'm fighting somebody over some damn football team. I might fight you for some tickets. That's all.
And I lived in the Navy man about the Raiders. Every day I think.
But I just want to say, I'm a 49ers and a Raiders fan. My mama was a twin. My mama from Frisco. My auntie's from Oakland. So that's how that goes. Big area fans, we can unite. But, yeah, 49er Raiders for life. But, I think, one thing I was listening to, and it's interesting, like, I think we don't really use our advantages. That's kind of what I'm hearing, is because it's interesting, man, like, you can take somebody like Hugh, that's 40-something, right? Only put your age out there. But,
25,
yeah. Hip-hop keeps you young. But, his son listens to the same music that he started out on. I didn't listen to the same music as my daddy. But maybe the oldies, just like Big Rich said, you listen to everything. So I think that's an interesting thing that we're not really capitalizing on either, that connection right there. And then like another thing I always say is like, you look at algebra, the solution is always found within the problem, right? So, and it's right there in your face, and it's interesting. Growing up as a child, I was always wondering what was going to be the solution for the black community. Who was going to be the solution? Who was going to turn our community around? And it dawned on me one day, I said it was hip-hop. That created the jobs, the $15 billion industry that we didn't even capitalize on, and it came like a bolt in the night, and then it just sailed away. So another thing that I look at, like in Hunter's Point right now, there's no hip-hop, and this hip-hop is in somebody's, device. Back in the days, it was nothing to see people on the court freestyling. And tell you the truth, I kind of came up after the breakdance era, but I wish breakdancing would come back. And if you look at like the 5 elements of hip hop, that's really like a business plan, because each element can generate an economy. So I think we need to start using these things, and we definitely need to get hip hop back into the hood. Like next Saturday on 13th, I'm here just to promote my thing or whatever, but on 13th, with IT Aprils, which is a relationship between community and business, we have an open mic session, and that's done on the spirit of putting hip hop back in the hood. So, I think like people like Jay-Z and other artists, they ain't necessarily got to give their money, but they can give their presence.
They got to give back.
Like if Jay-Z was hosting an open mic, and anybody from the hood can come on and get on, put another limit on it. You know what I'm saying? Because, he had millions. But if he was, he'd pop off. Say, man, I'm going to take the 5 best artists, and, I'm going to get them on the radio, or I might sign them to the deal. We need to start doing things like that. So I don't want to take too long. I want it to be organic and natural. And I just want to say, I love y'all. Peace.
So I think we're about ready to wrap it up. Why don't we do this? I often do this when I'm teaching class. When I went to Cal, they told us to look to the left and look to the right. And they said the person to your left and the person to your right was not going to graduate. And that was like a scare tactic. Like we were all supposed to be scared. Like Nobody's gonna graduate. And you know, years later, I thought that was some bullshit. You're supposed to look to the left and look to the right and say, these are people who I'm on network with. These are brothers and sisters for life. These are people who 10, 20 years down the road, or 5 years down the road, say, I need a lawyer. Well, I'm that boy that you met at this gathering, the All Tribes gathering. I need a doctor. Well, I'm the doctor that you met. You know, let's start a business together. Let's do some things. Let's build community is really what I'm talking about. And so with everybody in this room, the answer's right here. We're the third largest market in the country. We have some of the most innovative people in this room. We have a legacy that I think we should be building upon. And that comes from we, as the brother was saying, we take advantage of everything in this room. All the intelligence that we need is right here. The resources is right here. And if we need money, then you know we can go to Fillmore Rich because the man got $1 billion in the bank, and Tajay got even more. And so we're all straight. So let's give it up for all our panelists. Give it up for yourself. Give it up for all tribes and the right one and everybody for coming out. And let's do it. All right?
Oh, okay, we got the mic off. I was like, but I want to let everybody know that tomorrow, Sunday, December 7th at 1 p.m. at Oscar Grand Plaza in Oakland, they're holding a vigil for O'Shane Evans, who was shot multiple times by SMP Officer David Goff. We're holding a Justice for O'Shane Evans vigil Sunday, which is I believe tomorrow, December the 7th at 1 p.m. Oscar Grand Plaza in Oakland. More information on that, you can hit 510-860-5476. So this is how we're going to push the knowledge.